The midnight train to Chicago cut through the darkness like a silver arrow, its headlight piercing the fog that rolled across the Illinois countryside. Inside the sleek passenger car, most travelers dozed peacefully, unaware that their journey would soon become a fight for survival. Maya Chen sat in seat 112A, her fingers dancing across her laptop keyboard as lines of code scrolled down the screen. The Berkeley Tech Academy student had been working on her cybersecurity project for hours, but something felt wrong. Her monitoring software was picking up unusual network activity on the train's systems. "That's weird," she whispered to herself, adjusting her black-rimmed glasses. The train's internal network was showing unauthorized access attempts. Someone was trying to hack into the control systems. 3 rows behind her, Jackson Williams bobbed his head to the beat flowing through his wireless earbuds. The 19-year-old audio engineering student was mixing tracks for his latest project, but he noticed something odd in the ambient sound around him. There was a faint electronic humming that shouldn't be there, almost like interference. Riley Thompson couldn't sleep. The 16-year-old athlete was returning from a track meet in Springfield, but her restless energy kept her awake. She gazed out the window at the passing landscape, her compass necklace catching the dim interior light. Something about the train's rhythm felt off, like they were gradually picking up speed. In the front of the car, a man in expensive black suits sat rigidly upright. Victor Kozlov checked his gold watch repeatedly, his steel-grey eyes scanning the other passengers. The briefcase beside him contained more than just documents. Tonight's plan was proceeding perfectly. Dr. Sarah Mitchell dozed lightly in her seat, her medical bag secured beside her. The emergency room physician was exhausted after a double shift, but years of training had taught her to stay alert even while resting. A subtle change in the train's vibration brought her fully awake. Maya's fingers froze over her keyboard as her security software triggered an alert. Someone had successfully breached the train's main control system. Her heart raced as she realized the implications. The train's speed, brakes, and safety systems were all computerized. If someone had malicious intent, they could turn the train into a weapon. She quickly opened a new program and began tracing the source of the hack. The digital trail led to multiple access points throughout the train. This wasn't the work of a single person, but a coordinated cyber attack. "Oh no," Maya breathed, her brown eyes widening behind her glasses. The train was accelerating beyond its normal speed limit, and the automated safety systems had been disabled. They were heading toward a sharp curve at nearly double the safe speed. Maya grabbed her black backpack and rushed down the aisle, her Berkeley Tech Academy hoodie billowing behind her. She needed to find the train's physical control systems, but first, she had to warn the other passengers. "Excuse me," she said, tapping Jackson on the shoulder. He pulled out one earbud, his green eyes focusing on her worried expression. "What's up?" Jazz asked, pausing his music mixing. "The train's been hacked," Maya whispered urgently. "Someone's taken control of the speed and brakes. We're in serious danger." Jazz's expression shifted from casual to concerned. "Are you sure?" Maya showed him her laptop screen, pointing to the scrolling data. "Look at this. The control systems are completely compromised. We're going way too fast for the upcoming turns." Riley, who had been listening from the seat behind them, leaned forward. "I felt it too. The train keeps getting faster. What can we do?" "I'm Maya," the tech student said quickly. "I study cybersecurity. I might be able to counter-hack the system. But I need to get to the engine car." "I'm Jazz," the audio engineering student replied. "And I know something about electronic systems. I can help," Riley, the young athlete, added. "I'm fast and I'm not afraid. Count me in." The 3 teenagers looked at each other, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They were strangers, but they were also their best hope for survival. Maya pulled up a schematic of the train on her laptop. "The main control junction should be in the engine car, but we'll have to get past the passenger cars and the cargo section. It won't be easy." What about the conductor? Riley asked. That's the problem, Maya replied grimly. My scans show that the conductor's communication system has been jammed. Either he's been neutralized, or he's part of this. Jazz stood up, his red leather jacket creaking softly. Then we better move fast. How long before we hit something? Maya checked her calculations. Based on our current acceleration and the track layout, we have maybe 20 minutes before we reach the Riverside Bridge. If we're going this fast when we hit that curve, the train will derail. The three young people began making their way toward the front of the train, moving carefully to avoid waking the sleeping passengers. Maya carried her laptop, monitoring the hackers' activities in real time. Jazz kept his audio equipment ready, thinking it might be useful for communication. Riley's athletic training helped her move silently through the narrow aisles. As they reached the connection between cars, Maya's laptop chimed with another alert. They're trying to lock down the cars, she whispered. The automatic doors are being sealed. Can you stop it? Jazz asked. Maya's fingers flew across her keyboard. I'm trying, but whoever's doing this is really good. They've got multiple backup systems in place. The train lurched slightly as it hit another acceleration phase. Through the windows, they could see the landscape rushing by at an alarming speed. The gentle swaying motion of a normal train ride had become an urgent, almost violent momentum. There, Maya said, managing to override the door locks. I've got us access to the next car, but it won't last long. They'll notice the breach. They moved into the next passenger car where most people were still sleeping. Maya felt a stab of guilt. Knowing these innocent travelers had no idea they were racing toward disaster, she made a mental note to trigger the emergency alert system once she reached the control junction. Suddenly, Jazz grabbed her arm. Someone's coming, he whispered. A figure in a black suit was walking toward them from the front of the train. Even in the dim light, they could see Victor Kozlov's cold grey eyes and the way he moved with predatory confidence. Students, Victor said in his thick accent, his voice carrying easily over the train's noise. You should be sleeping. It is very late. Maya instinctively stepped behind Jazz. Her laptop clutched against her chest. Riley positioned herself to the side, her track and field training telling her to look for escape routes. We couldn't sleep, Jazz replied casually, but his body was tense. Just stretching our legs, Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. The train is moving quite fast tonight. It would be dangerous to walk around. Perhaps you should return to your seats. Actually, Maya said, finding her courage, we noticed some irregularities in the train systems. Are you part of the crew? Victor's smile faded. You are very observant. Young lady, yes, I am responsible for tonight's schedule changes. The confession hung in the air like a threat. Maya's heart pounded as she realized they were face to face with the person behind the cyber attack. Why? Riley asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her blue eyes. This train carries more than passengers, Victor explained, his hand moving toward his jacket. In the cargo car, there are certain materials that some people would prefer not to reach Chicago. Unfortunately, a simple theft would raise too many questions. An accident, however, would destroy the evidence completely. Maya's mind raced. Victor wasn't just trying to steal something from the train. He was planning to crash it to cover up his crime, and he was willing to kill everyone aboard to do it. You're insane, Jazza said, his green eyes flashing with anger. There are over 200 people on this train. Regrettable? Victor replied with a shrug, but necessary. Now, I suggest you return to your seats and enjoy the ride. It will be over soon. Maya made a split-second decision. She opened her laptop and began typing frantically, her fingers moving faster than they ever had before. If she could just trigger the emergency systems, maybe she could buy them time. Victor noticed her movement and lunged forward, but Jazz stepped in his way. The two men collided, and Jazz's audio equipment scattered across the floor. Riley jumped into action, using her athlete's reflexes to grab Victor's briefcase before he could reach it. "Maya, run!" Jazz shouted, grappling with the older man. Maya ran toward the front of the train, her laptop bouncing in her arms. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of struggle as Jazz and Riley fought to slow down Victor. She had to reach the control systems before he caught up to them. The door to the engine car was locked, but Maya's hacking skills made quick work of the electronic lock. She burst into the control room and froze. The conductor was slumped over his console, unconscious but breathing. "Thank goodness," Maya whispered, checking his pulse. "Doc." Mitchell's medical training would have been helpful, but there was no time to go back for her. Maya connected her laptop to the train's main control system and began working. The hack was even more sophisticated than she'd realized. Victor and his associates had created multiple redundant pathways, so even if she closed one access point, others would remain active. The train was now moving at nearly 90 miles per hour, far beyond the safe speed for the winding tracks ahead. Maya could see the Riverside Bridge approaching in the distance, its steel framework silhouetted against the night sky. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jazong. "Victor got away. He's heading your way. Almost there." Maya typed back quickly. "In engine car. Need more time?" She dove deeper into the system, using every trick she'd learned at Berkeley Tech Academy. The code was elegant and vicious, designed to resist exactly the kind of counterattack she was attempting. But Maya had something the original hackers didn't expecting. She was fighting for her life and the lives of everyone on the train. "Come on," she whispered to herself, her brown eyes reflecting the glow of her laptop screen. There has to be a way. She found it in an old subroutine that the hackers had overlooked. The train's original safety systems had been installed with a manual override that predated the digital controls. If she could access it, she might be able to restore braking power. The engine car door slammed open, and Victor appeared, his black suit torn and his steel-grey eyes blazing with fury. "Step away from the controls, girl." "No," Maya said firmly, not looking up from her laptop. "I won't let you murder these people." Victor pulled out a gun, his scarred hand steady despite the train's wild motion. "I said step away." Maya's fingers never stopped typing. She was so close to breaking through the hack that she could taste victory. The manual override was just a few keystrokes away. "You have 5 seconds, Victor said, raising the weapon. "Maya, duck." Jazz's voice came from the doorway. Maya threw herself to the side as Jazz hurled one of his audio speakers at Victor. The man stumbled, his shot going wide and shattering one of the engine car windows. Wind and noise flooded the compartment. Riley appeared behind Jazz, carrying a fire extinguisher she'd grabbed from the hallway. "Is everyone okay?" "I'm fine," Maya called out, crawling back to her laptop. "But I need 30 more seconds." Victor recovered quickly, but now he was facing 2 determined teenagers while trying to keep his balance on the rapidly moving train. Jazz and Riley worked together, using their combined strength to keep him away from Maya. "Got it!" Maya shouted triumphantly. Her fingers hit the final sequence, and the train's braking system came back online. The massive locomotive began to slow, its wheels sparking against the rails. But they were still moving too fast, and the Riverside Bridge was less than a mile away. Maya's victory was only partial. She'd regained control of the brakes, but physics was still working against them. "Everyone hold on," Maya yelled. She pushed the brakes to their maximum, hoping the train's momentum wouldn't carry them over the edge. The engine car filled with the screaming sound of metal on metal as the brake pads fought to stop the massive train. Through the broken window, Maya could see the bridge getting closer and closer. Victor made one last desperate attempt to reach the controls, but Jazz tackled him, and both men went down hard. Riley helped Maya secure the braking system, her compass necklace swinging wildly as the train shuddered and shook. "It's working," Maya called out. "We're slowing down." The train continued to decelerate, but it was unclear whether they would stop in time. The bridge loomed ahead, its steel girders looking fragile and thin in the darkness. Maya closed her eyes and did something she hadn't done since childhood. She prayed. The train hit the bridge approach at 40 miles per hour, still dangerously fast but no longer suicidal. The locomotive's wheels screamed against the rails as Maya applied every bit of braking power she could muster. They thundered onto the bridge, the steel framework growing under the strain. Maya could see the river far below, its dark waters reflecting the train's headlight. If they derailed here, the fall would be fatal.
"Come on,"
Riley whispered, her blue eyes fixed on the track ahead.
"Come on, come on."
The train continued to slow, meter by meter, mile by mile. Maya's laptop showed their speed dropping steadily 35 miles per hour, 30, 25. The bridge was only a quarter mile long, but it felt like it stretched forever. Finally, impossibly, the train came to a complete stop, just as they reached the far side of the bridge. The engine car was silent, except for the sound of everyone breathing heavily. "We did it," Jad said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." Maya slumped over her laptop, exhaustion hitting her like a wave. Her Berkeley Tech Academy hoodie was soaked with sweat, and her hands were shaking from the adrenaline. But they were alive. Everyone was alive. Victor groaned and tried to sit up, but Jazz and Riley were ready for him. They used some cable from the engine car to tie his hands, and Riley kept the fire extinguisher ready in case he tried anything else. "The police will want to talk to him," Maya said, pulling out her phone to call 911. "And the FBI will be very interested in that briefcase." Dr. Mitchell appeared in the doorway, her medical bag in hand. "I heard the commotion." "Is anyone hurt?" "Just some bruises," Jazz replied. "But the conductor is unconscious. He needs medical attention." Mitchell immediately went to work checking the conductor's vital signs. "He's been drugged, but he should recover fully. You three saved more lives than you know." As the emergency responders arrived and began sorting out the aftermath, Maya, Jazz, and Riley found themselves standing together on the platform of the small station where the train had finally stopped. The nightmare was over, but the adrenaline was still coursing through their veins. "I can't believe we actually did that," Riley said, tucking her blonde hair behind her ears. "When I woke up this morning, I never thought I'd be stopping a cyber terrorist." "I study this stuff every day," Maya said, adjusting her glasses. "But I never imagined I have to use it to save lives." "It was terrifying." Jazz nodded, his green eyes still bright with the excitement of their adventure. "My professors always said audio engineering was about solving problems under pressure. I guess tonight proved that." They exchanged contact information, knowing that their shared experience had created a bond that would last for years. Maya promised to help Jazz with some sound engineering software she'd been developing. Jazz offered to help Riley create a podcast about her athletic training. Riley insisted they all stay in touch and maybe even meet up for a proper adventure sometime. As they waited for their families to arrive, Maya couldn't help but think about how different the night could have been. 3 strangers had become a team, and together they had saved over 200 lives. It was the kind of story that would be told for years to come. The FBI agents who interviewed them were impressed by their quick thinking and bravery. Agent Rodriguez, who led the investigation, told them that Victor was part of an international smuggling ring that had been using passenger trains to transport stolen technology. The accident he'd planned would have destroyed the evidence and eliminated the witnesses. "You three are heroes," Agent Rodriguez said. "Without your intervention, this would have been one of the worst rail disasters in American history." Maya's parents arrived first. Having driven through the night from California, her mother hugged her so tightly that Maya's glasses fogged up, and her father kept saying how proud he was of his brilliant daughter. Jazz's family came next, his little sister running ahead to tackle him with a hug. His parents looked exhausted but relieved, and his grandmother whispered a prayer of thanksgiving. Riley's parents were last to arrive, but their reunion was just as emotional. Her father, a former military officer, shook hands with Maya and Jazz, thanking them for watching out for his daughter. Her mother, a teacher, told them they had shown courage beyond their years. As the sun began to rise over the Illinois countryside, the three young heroes finally went their separate ways. Maya would return to Berkeley Tech Academy with a story that would make her a legend among her classmates. Jazz would go back to his audio engineering program with a new appreciation for the technology that surrounded him. Riley would return to her track and field training, knowing that her speed and agility had helped save lives. The train, after being thoroughly inspected and repaired, would eventually return to service. But for Maya, Jazz, and Riley, the midnight train to Chicago would always be the place where they discovered they were capable of extraordinary things. In the months that followed, their story would be told in newspapers, on podcasts, and in online forums. They would be invited to speak at schools and conferences, sharing their experience and encouraging other young people to develop their skills and confidence. Maya would go on to found a cybersecurity company that specialized in protecting transportation systems. Jazz would become a renowned audio engineer, always crediting his experience on the train with teaching him to stay calm under pressure. Riley would become a professional athlete and later a coach, inspiring young people to be brave and stand up for what's right. But on that cold midnight in November, as the train sat safely on the tracks beside the Riverside Bridge, they were just three teenagers who had refused to let fear stop them from doing what was right. They had faced down a dangerous criminal, outsmarted a sophisticated cyber attack, and saved the lives of everyone aboard. The girl who saved the train was actually three people: a brilliant hacker, a clever engineer, and a brave athlete. Together they had proven that heroism comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most unlikely people can rise to meet the greatest challenges. As Maya packed up her laptop and prepared to leave the train for the last time, she looked back at the engine car, where she had fought her digital battle. The screens were dark now, the crisis over. But she would never forget the feeling of her fingers flying across the keyboard as she raced against time to save lives. The midnight train to Chicago had become something more than just a mode of transportation. It had become the setting for a story of courage, friendship, and the power of young people to make a difference in the world. And somewhere out there, on trains and planes and buses across the country, other young heroes were waiting for their moment to shine. The adventure was over, but the story would live on forever,